Welcome to the Syncopator Familius podcast. My name is Greg Richter. I'm your host, and this is an on-the-road version. Today, I am traveling along I-20 through Georgia. While I'm on the road here, I'm going to be taking the opportunity to listen to some music and talk about it. And we are not able to play the music because of copyright issues, but I will tell you that it's going to be a little different. I'm going to tell you what the song is. You can listen to it, and then we'll discuss it. You can pause this podcast, listen to each song, then come back and hear me discuss it. Now, what we're going to be doing today is listening to the Bob Dylan Christian album Trilogy. The first one is Slow Train Coming, which came out in 1979. This is, Dylan had just gone full Christian, and it caused probably as much, if not more, issues with his fan base than when he went electric. His first album was just full-blown born-again Christian, and he was just all out when he went to his concerts, where he wouldn't even play his old music at his concerts. So that was there was a lot of issues with that. I want to talk about his journey, how I relate to the journey, but we want to listen to each song one at a time. Got to serve somebody first. So call up wherever you listen to your music, Spotify, YouTube. They're free on YouTube if you don't have them, or if you just have the CD or the LP record album, or a cassette tape or a 8-track tape, whatever your mode of listening is. Let's stop. We're going to listen to Gotta Serve Somebody, and then come back and we'll talk about it. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. The first thing when I first heard this is the first album I heard. I did not hear this. I became a Christian in 1984, I would say, for those of you unfamiliar with the term. I was raised in a Christian home, environment, family, where Christianity, my mother took us to church. My dad didn't go to church, but we went, and my mom was Baptist, but she took us to his church, his family's church, which was the oldest church in town. And I'm from a town founded by German immigrants, and so the founder of my town this was the very first church that he set up, so that there would be a church. It was just wasn't really a Lutheran church. It was a German Protestant church, and so that's where I went to church. And my mom was, like I said, Baptist, so she had the born again Christian label from her family, and but that's not anything that was preached at the church I grew up in at the time. I would say that it is now, but at the time it was not. But I was familiar. I had family on my mother's side. I had friends who were all from this born-again Christian, evangelical Christian background. I believed in God. I believed in Jesus. I believed Jesus saved you for your sins, and that's something that I wanted for myself, but I had not. I've discussed this, I think, in some of my columns I can link to. I think it's in my first book, The Beatitudes. The column is included in there, so I'll link to that. You can get a free copy of it, or it's 99 cents ebook if you get it on Amazon. I first felt the calling when I was like 9 years old. I went to a vacation Bible school, summer vacation Bible school with my maternal grandparents' church. And I did not answer the call, so to speak. And as I became a teenager, I got involved in drinking, smoking, in the not all legal substances. Well, they were all illegal substances at the age of 16 and 17. It's illegal to smoke tobacco, but that wasn't the only leafy substance that I smoked. But that didn't make me any worse than anybody else. I still needed a savior, and but I recognized what I was doing on Friday and Saturday nights with my friends. And there's more. There's things I would have done with girls, but I was too bashful, so I was. That's the only thing that stopped me from doing some of the things that I shouldn't have done as a teenager, that a lot of my friends were doing. And so I would pray the sinner's prayer. And a lot of times I would just really be drunk, extremely drunk with a group of friends, and I was just like, I'm just like, Lord, I would pray, Lord, I want to be out of this situation, and I want to. So I would say the old sinner's prayer: save me from my sins, I repent of my sins, forgive me my sins, blah blah blah. I would do that, and God would get me out of the situation, and then I would go back to school, and I would be like a good boy. Someone would say something, oh no, make a suggestion of something we should do. No, I'm a Christian now, and so that would last at most a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, but usually just a day or not even that much. I would say this prayer over and over. I've said it hundreds of times. Finally, one day, after my first year in college, I was leaving my first journalism class, and fed up, and reached the end of my rope and said the prayer as I was walking to my car from class. I sat down in the car and I was like, well, how do I know? But I said, how do I know? How do I know if this really took? I've said this hundreds of times. I don't know if this time's going to be any different than all the other times. And so I just prayed to God at that point and just said, please, Lord, let me know. And he said, just trust me. I felt him. I didn't hear an audible voice. I just felt that in my heart, in my spirit. I felt God say to me in my mind, just trust. And I immediately trusted, and that was it. That's the day that I count that I became a true follower of Jesus, a true Christian, not just a Christian in name only, or a Christian of a sort, as Kierkegaard called it. So, having said that, I was unaware of Dylan's conversion, even though his had happened in '79, so his had happened 5 years before me, but I was unaware of it. I was listening to Van Halen, and I listened to a lot of different kind of stuff. I listened to the Glenn Miller Band in high school. I had an eclectic musical taste, but mostly it wasn't Benny Goodman or that, but I listened to Buddy Holly. I listened to 50s music, but mostly I listened to Van Halen, The Who, Leonard Skinner, Southern rock, that kind of stuff. But I was aware of Dylan as well, but I was not aware of him to the point that I knew he had become a Christian and recorded at that point 3 Christian albums. So there you have it. Gotta Serve Somebody. That was his first single, I think, from this album or from his Christian era, and it was met. I think. I will confess that I did zero research for this. I've been packing for the trip, and I'm just going off of what I know can remember from years ago. But I heard the album about 1988. I heard of Slow Train Coming. I wrote a column about it in the paper I was working for at the time, local paper, and so. There was an assistant district attorney he and his wife had the other 2 albums, so they recorded the albums for me on cassette. So that's how I got the second 2 albums. I became a big fan of Dylan's Christian music at the time, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how he was received. He was not received well by the mainstream society, I don't believe. And in fact, John Lennon, who was famous for Imagine, he wrote a response: to serve somebody, you got to serve yourself.
You gotta save yourself. Ain't nobody gonna do for you. Yeah, you may believe in devils and you may believe in laws, but Christ, you're gonna have to save yourself, and that's all there is to it.
And you gotta realize that this was made during the me decade. For those of you who weren't alive at the time, the 70s were the me decade. Everything was about me now. You were serving yourself. So Dylan's got to serve somebody, and it might be the devil or it might be the Lord. That was not a big hit culturally among non-Christian thinkers. So there's that. And one of the things that I remember big from this was like I said, I heard this in '88, and another thing younger people may not know, when he's saying, you may call me this, you may call me that, you may call me Bobby, which is his first name, Robert, Bobby. You may call me Zimmy. His real last name was Zimmerman. So that's where you may call me Bobby, you may call me Zimmy. Then he says, you may call me RJ, or you may call me Ray. You may call me anything. No matter what you say, you got to serve somebody. Why would you call him RJ or Ray? Well, there was a comedian in the late 70s, at the time that this was released, who did a bit as an old guy named Raymond J. Johnson Jr.
What's your name?
My name is Raymond J. Johnson Jr.
Well, the deli is right across the street, Mr. Johnson. If you...
Oh, you doesn't have to call me Johnson. You can call me Ray. Or you can call me Jay. Or you can call me Johnny. Or you can call me Sonny. Or you can call me Junie. Or you can call me Ray J. Or you can call me RJ. Or you can call me RJJ. Or you can call me RJJ Jr. But you doesn't have to call me Johnson.
That was a nod to that I look forward to that, even though there's a real serious theme to the song. I look forward to that line. Now, next we're going to listen to, I think Precious Angel is up next. Yes, I have no idea if these are, I haven't listened to this album in so long. I have all 3 CDs. I haven't listened to them as long. I don't know what the proper order is. I'm listening to them as they come up on my YouTube, which is the Bob Dylan channel. I would assume he put them in the right order. His people did, but we don't know. Anyway, we're going to try this Precious Angel next. So pause, and then we'll talk about it. Alrighty. Okay, that sounds like it's going to be a love ballad, and it is, and that's as close as we get to on that album. I would say it has a lot of other imagery in there. It has some apocalyptic imagery, some apologetic imagery, some preaching, a lot of preaching against other ways of thinking, and that is pretty typical, I would say, of my experience. This is the experience of a person who is a true believer. I see in Dylan a lot of what I saw in myself and what I see in other believers when they first come to know Jesus. You're really on fire and you want to really, really save everybody. And that's not saying that that's not a goal, but is as the Apostle Paul writes in the Scriptures, sometimes you're planting a seed, sometimes you're watering someone else's seed. So the harvest is not always seen by the person who plants the seed, who waters the seed, who tends the plant. It's a process in a lot of people. Like I said myself, I grew up and I was 9 years old before I felt this calling. And then I was 19 years old before I finally gave into the calling and have been on the journey then. And then it's a journey. You don't instantly become all knowledgeable or all perfect. You become forgiven. That's what you become. Instantly forgiven. You never become any more forgiven than you are at the instant that you believe. But you become more mature and you learn more. And I can see in Dylan what I saw. And he was older than I was. He was not. He was a lot older than 19 when he came to Christ. But he was zealous. He was extremely zealous, as was I, to save all my family, my friends. I wanted them to have what I had. I didn't want them to go to hell. I don't want anybody going to hell, and I still don't want anybody going to hell. But you can see Dylan here is he's learned a lot of stuff, and he's wanting to cram it. He's cramming it all into a love song. This is a love song to his woman. But that's barely in there. That kind of comes in at the end. I mean, he addresses the song to his precious angel at the very beginning, and that's the title of the song. But he gets to the end before you hear about his woman, the queen of his flesh, his woman, his delight. And it's the very end of the song before you get to that. You get to a lot of other stuff before you get to that. The producer of this album, Jerry Wexler, is quoted as saying that Dylan was constantly, during the making of this album, he was constantly trying to convert him. He was preaching to him, trying to convert him. And finally Wexler just said, look, I'm a 61-year-old Jewish atheist. Let's just make an album. Let's just make the album. And so he didn't succeed there. At least not right then. So, you know, he was planting a seed, and that was his goal. That was his job, just to plant a seed. And I think later we'll get to later albums or how his trilogy goes on, and then how his later career up until today turns out. But I think you're seeing right here a zealousness to tell everybody everything, so that if they don't believe, it's not on him, it's not on Bob Dylan, and it wasn't on Greg Richter, that you did not know, that you did not believe, because he was going to tell you he was going to go to a concert, and his concert was not going to have any of his old stuff. He wasn't like Al Green. Al Green became a Christian, and he started recording Christian music, but he would still sing his old love songs at his concerts. That was not Bob Dylan. So anyway, that's Precious Angel, and I think next is I Believe in You. So listen to I Believe in You and come back. Okay, I Believe in You. That one really resonates with me too. Like I said, in my early Christian days, I had all of my friends were drinking buddies and smoking buddies and whatnot, partying. That was my friend base, were partiers, and so I didn't want to party anymore. I said, I didn't think I was better than anybody, but I didn't want to do that anymore. And I had seen what happened, as I noted, when I would say these prayers in high school, say the sinner's prayer over and over again, and then I would just, as soon as I got back into this, I was going to go hang out with everybody, but I wasn't going to drink, and I wasn't going to smoke, I wasn't going to do any dope, I wasn't going to do anything, I wasn't going to do any of that bad stuff, because now I'm a Christian. And that lasted. Peer pressure, and especially as a high schooler, got me like that. So your friends kind of fell away, and you started going to church, and you would make new friends, but I didn't meet a lot of people my age at church. I wasn't going, and like I said, I was a shy person, so I didn't just like instantly make a lot of Christian friends my age. But I would just go to church, and I would make friends with, and in particular, one of my best friend, his dad I knew he was a Christian, so I asked if I could come over on a Friday night and talk about the Bible to him. And sure, so I go over, I talk to him and his wife about the Bible. I would just ask if I would have a list of questions, because you got to realize this was 1983. I couldn't email this stuff. I could call them on the phone, I guess, but I didn't want to bother them. I would go over to see them on Friday or Saturday night. I would write up my list of questions for the week. So I kind of went from party every Friday and Saturday night to party to just staying home and listening to, and just spending all my time listening to Christian radio. But I read the Bible all the way through 3 or 4 times. I think it was 4 times the first year. And then I read it 3 times, and then went down to 2, and then went down to 1, because I'd read it at that point. I'd learned everything, but I wanted to keep reading. But I wanted to know what was in there. What were the secrets? Were there any great secrets in the Bible that I could learn? Spiritual secrets. There weren't any great, like, Gnostic secrets. That's the kind of mind I had. Was there something in there that when I read it, I was going to learn something? Some secret knowledge. No, I didn't learn any secret. It's public. It's all public. But where you align your life with godly things, with God Himself, with Jesus Christ, the more the Holy Spirit will give you insights that you couldn't see with a non-spiritual mind. I felt like Dylan. All my friends were shaking me. I was like, "Hey, I'll hang out with you, but I want to have a Bible study." Well, they certainly did not want to have a Bible study, but they didn't even want to just hang out and just whatever. But my thing was I wanted a changed life. I had a changed heart, and I wanted a changed life. So much so that it bothered my dad, who was like, eventually said to me, he said, "It's good that you're not doing this, going out every Friday and Saturday night anymore and doing all the drinking and all that stuff." He didn't know about the pot smoking, but it's good I wasn't doing that. But he said I had gone too far to the other side, like I turned into a Jesus freak, basically. And I had, and I was proud of it, and I still am. So I stand by that. But nevertheless, this was worrisome to my dad. And it was my friends, Rob, probably, I don't know what they thought. They probably thought it was a phase I was going through. And if it was, I'm still in the phase. 42 years later, I'm still in the phase. But I've mellowed out a little bit, and I can hang out with people and not have to constantly share with them the scriptures. And Dylan himself is a new Christian. He's talking about his friends shunning him because he doesn't think like they want him to. And they show him to the door, blah, 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 all that good stuff. So, yep, that's it for that one. And next up is the title track, Slow Train Coming. So pause the podcast, listen to Slow Train Coming, and come right back and we'll talk about that. Alrighty, we can see why that track was made the title track of the album. It kind of sits down the whole what's wrong with the world. Dylan kind of lays out all the sins of the world, everything everybody's doing, and says there's something coming around the corner here, and you knock it off here, knock off what you're doing. Although I don't think he thinks that's going to happen, but he's discussing the state of the world, and not a lot I can say about that extra that I have off the top of my head, but we know what Dylan decided to do about it, and that was change his way of thinking, and that is the next track, Change My Way of Thinking. So let's pause and listen to that, and then come back and we'll discuss Change My Way of Thinking. Okay, not a lot to say about this one either. Just looking at the state of the state of things, the world system, and not liking it, and some preaching, a little preaching in there, and that's pretty much that. Next we're gonna, so let's listen to the next one. The next one's gonna be "Do Right to Me, Do Right to Me, Baby." Parenthetically, do unto others. So let's see how that one goes. Let's pause now and come back. Okay, that was a fun one, I think. I think it's interesting to hear the Golden Rule made into basically a popular song. I guess there's probably been Christian bands, and I will get notes on this, that have written about the Golden Rule, but just specifically to somebody singing a song about the Golden Rule, that is pretty interesting to me, something you don't hear, and so it's kind of a little refreshing to hear that. Now we're going to go over to the next song. When You Gonna Wake Up? All right, listen to When You're Gonna Wake Up and come back. I think this is one of the strongest songs. One of the strongest songs that it's preaching. It's just a strong message and a good vibe to it combined. I think this is probably underappreciated. One of the most underappreciated songs on the album. I think there's things John Lennon would have agreed with on this one, and then things he would have hated. So it wasn't just a flat out, you got to serve somebody. He could argue with that from his philosophy, but there's some of the stuff where they're in agreement here, so I think this would have been a little easier for Dylan to dialogue with John Lennon on this. Okay, pause the podcast now and listen to "Man Gave Names to All the Animals." This is a great one. See you on the other side. That fun song ended on a somber note. Is this a kiddie song? Is it simplistic? I've heard people give it praise. Seems like they're online on Twitter and whatnot. They seem to be kind of tongue-in-cheek, doing so, making fun of it. But I don't know. I don't know if they're serious. Some people have acted like they're serious. I like the song myself. It's a little silly, but it has a serious ending, and maybe has a message in there. I don't know. What do you think? It's the kid's story. Is the kid's song? Is it too silly? Is it dumb? Is it incredibly intelligent and hiding behind the mask of a simple little children's song? All right, Next up, hit pause here and listen to When He Returns. We'll talk about it. Okay, this one's clearly apocalyptic in the sense, certainly, that it's talking about the return of Jesus and what it's going to be like. It also has there's a hopefulness to it. It's not all, there's a warning, but there's hope. There will be no peace and the world won't cease until He returns. This is extremely literally biblical. You can tell Dylan is taking the Bible literally. He is not converted to Christianity and then become a follower. And when I'm talking about the quotes from Revelation, just all of throughout the whole album, all of the biblical quotes, he doesn't seem to take anything. He mixes in some world events, some political statements, but things that I think just hitting people in high power and not making a right-left political stand per se, but just hitting people in power. I mean, he hits Karl Marx, he hits Henry Kissinger, so those are political statements, but they're not something that would be like as divisive as we have things today in politics and Christianity. This is some good stuff, I think, and I think I'm going to leave it right there for now. I want to do all 3 albums and then talk about his period after that and how these 3 albums develop. For right now, I'm going to take a break. If you've listened to each song and listened to me blather about it, my uninformed opinions, just off-the-cuff remarks, I think you're probably ready for a break. Personally, as I'm recording this, I'm going to take a break and clear my brain, clear my mind before I listen to the second album.